As an artist, we're influenced by the world around us, whether it's the movies that we watch, the books that we read, the news that we follow, just our experiences in life, and even something as simple as an interaction with someone else. So I had a pretty dope moment last week that I wanted to share with you guys because I think it leads to a good discussion, and it's a good topic for a video this week. So as you guys know, I reacted to Ren's latest song, and it was incredibly gripping. It was emotional, it was raw, it was vulnerable. And those of you who watched the reaction and listened to the song, you know about 2/3 of the way through the song, there was a drastic production change. And there was a big tonal change from Ren as well. And he really opened up about the night of losing his best friend Joe and the traumatization that he experienced and his thoughts and his feelings of pain and guilt and loss since then. And it was kind of a way for him to cope, a way for him to deal with it via the outlet of music. But also was really interesting because he really just left himself raw and left his thoughts unfiltered for all of us to experience together. And that's the thing that I experience as an artist. You know, when you're working on a piece, when you're writing prose, you have a thought of you and your outlet and the things that you want to express and get off of your chest. But also, there's this awareness, whether it's buried down or whether it's a more surface level awareness that somebody somewhere is going to be either listening to this or reading your words or digesting what you say. So in a way, the creative process becomes filtered because there is that consciousness, that awareness of a third party that's going to be experiencing whatever you're creating. But what I think is really interesting about that particular verse from Ren is that it seemed to me, and it really felt like there was no worry about who was going to be listening. It was really just Ren letting the thoughts just flow out in sort of a stream of consciousness. Like he didn't necessarily care about the technicals. He didn't care about how other people were going to critique it, how they were going to read into it. No, he had a story to tell. He had some emotional trauma that he was still experiencing and trying to find a way to deal with. And he decided to use music to express that. And he left himself just completely raw and unfiltered in that just rush of emotions that he gave us. And, you know, it really struck a chord with me. It took me down a personal path and made me think of losing one of my best friends and my close friends to cancer, which I shared with you guys. And I think it really had a great impact on a lot of you as well. And I think when an artist can just find those moments of purity, when they can just block out the expectation, the surrounding noise of knowing that someone else is going to be a part of their work and just really get down to the core of how they're feeling. Those are some of the rare, beautiful moments of art that really express the soul of what makes art art. And for me personally, I think it was an incredible moment in my reaction career, just being able to experience that and to share it with you guys and just, yeah, to be a part of a piece of musical history. But it doesn't stop there. After I published my reaction, there were some people in the comment section who were letting me know, hey, you need to look a little bit more into this situation and into what contributed to Ren's third verse because you actually played a part in that. And me just being the natural cynic that I am, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever you say. I'm sure that I really affected Ren's creative process and helped him with that verse. Don't be misled by the title of this. Welcome to YouTube. We have to get clicks. We have to get people in, people's attention, you know, but I don't have that much of a God complex where I'm sat here like, oh yeah, I'm really helping to guide Ren's pen and to help his creative process. But remember what I said about simple interactions. They can have a butterfly effect. And I think in this case, there was an interaction between me and Ren and the interview that we had that really contributed to the writing of this powerful, spectacular verse that he gave us. So I did some digging to see where you guys got this idea from, and I found it. So there's another reaction channel, shout out to Rosalie Reacts, and she did an interview after my interview with Ren. And towards the end of this interview, this is when the conversation of Ren's new song that he releases comes up, and also where his inspiration came from, which involves a little bit of yours truly. And then, with kind of that new lens and that new perspective, we're gonna re-listen to Ren's final verse. So let's dive into it.
So what's next? More music? We're just gonna keep creating?
Yeah, the next one's a bit of a deep one. Because I always like to try and think about the order of how I'm releasing things, and there's been a few sort of like Animal Flow and Illis were just a bit more sort of like hardcore hip-hoppy flexing stuff. So the next one that I'm putting out, so it was really funny actually. It was actually originally going to be like this 2 minutes long song that I wrote, and it's a lot more sort of song, and then I had it was actually off the back of the because I was chatting to Knox a couple of weeks ago. We put it out, and then I was chatting a lot about my mate Joe, and I think that just brought it to the forefront of my mind because I hadn't spoken about him in a while, and for some reason I was like, I just want to put something on the end of this song for him because I hadn't written about it in a while, and that's what I've done. So I just so it's almost like now this song with two acts in a way. And I wrote the second half literally last week, and I was like, I sent it because it was ready to go, it was already mastered, and I was like, I sent it to my mastering engineer, and I was like, can we stick this on the end? And it's another minute and a half, and even the video we've had to now go, okay, shit, we need to make the end of this video now. So
it makes sense now for why the video had such a change from, it looked like the different imagery of the AI generations. And we talked about like the changing faces and what that could reflect to all of a sudden you had more of a still frame and still image. And then he had lyrics included. So now it makes sense. Like they literally went back and they had to insert that after the whole project was ready to go in the first place. Wow.
The video we've had to now go, okay, shit, we need to make the end of this video now. So I'm kind of rushing finishing that at the moment, but it feels a lot more complete now. So I've got that coming out the 9th of May. Oh, no, the 9th of June. Sorry, we're in May right now. 9th of June. So, yeah, I'm excited by that. And then I've got this live version of Animal Flow coming out. By the time this comes out, it may already be out. Oh, no, it will definitely be out because it's tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is me in the past talking about my song that's now out.
Hey, talking sci-fi, man. I love me a good sci-fi movie. We're like in the middle of it right now. Are we the past and the future?
We're all in the multiverse right now. It's all
got
good.
7 million views right now.
Oh, it's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Keep watching it, people. Watch it. I'll put all the links below. Subscribe to Ren if you haven't yet. If you haven't yet, what's the matter with you? No, I'm just playing.
Absolutely. Go support Ren. Also, huge shout out to Rosalie Reacts for this one. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that essentially you have a finished song in an artist's world. And, once we get a song to the finish line, like, it takes a lot to get it to that point because we're our own biggest critics normally, especially people who really, truly care about their craft like Ren does. So for me, it says something that he's got this song, it's ready to go. And he's someone who really plans out his stuff. We talked about this in the interview. He kind of alludes to it here. Like Ren has his music planned out for like the rest of the year. He's already working that far in advance in terms of stuff that he has in the locker, things that he has going on in his mind. So he's really on top of stuff. So the fact that he took a song that's so close to being released for him, right? We're not talking about like 6-7 months in advance. No, we're talking about just, a week and then we're away and we're off with it. But he felt the need to go back and to kind of reinvent that song in a sense and really add something completely different. Because for me, when you listen to the first part of that song, it's very symbolic. It's very metaphorical. It's haunting. I love the singing. I think it's very catchy too. At the same time, I talked about how catchy it was, but at the same time, it was so sad. It was, melodic and smooth, and it kind of puts you at ease. But at the same time, you start to kind of wander into the shadows, into the darker depths of your mind and your conscious. And what really happened there was when Ren went back and gave this new verse, he all of a sudden got so much more personal with it. He got so much more descriptive with his own experiences, and he kind of put his own spin on it. Because I felt like before, anyone could kind of take that and include themselves in that story and in that narration of how they deal with suicide, or, if they've had a friend go through it and dealing with these depressive thoughts and situations. Whereas Ren, with that final verse, finally really insert himself into the story fully and gave us just a total raw reflection of that night and the events that have forever shaped and changed his lives, and I'm sure the lives of many, unfortunately. But yeah, what I think is dope though is that, essentially we had a conversation about this, and we had a great conversation. Honestly, I don't really do interviews. I talked about this before, but I just felt like I was really connecting with Ren's music. I felt like I kind of got on the same wavelength as him. So I felt like we could have a really good conversation that you guys would enjoy. And honestly, that hour and a half just absolutely flew by. I didn't even think I was in an interview half of the time. I was just sat having a drink with like one of my homies, just having a deeper discussion about life and just going through different topics and thoughts. But yeah, it kind of came out of a different place when we got to Joe and we started talking about that, because then the conversation got very serious and it got very emotional all of a sudden, when before maybe it was more analytical, when maybe before it was more intellectual. And then we started to just explore a different range in a different place. And it really resonated with me, because if I'm being honest with you, it is incredible how simple interactions can really inspire you. And what's funny is that I went away from the interview with Ren and I've written a completely different song than I've ever done. And I'm excited to share that with you guys. And I'm currently planning on filming a music video for it. In another 2 weeks, it's going to be a huge July release for me, hopefully by the end of July. I'm just like, I had music planned. I had music ready to release. And because of my interaction with Ren, it kind of made me reshift some of my creative process and thoughts and really want to push some new boundaries. So I kind of pulled some releases that I had planned and went back to the drawing board and went back to the blueprint. So what you guys are going to get from me starting in July is you're really going to get some new kind of outside the box music from even worlds that I haven't explored yet, which I'm excited to share with you. And I actually wrote another song off that interaction. So I've got like 2 brand new, really unique songs. So isn't it funny how, a simple interaction with someone can really spark creativity within you? And I'm not saying that, because of my interaction with Ren, that's why he wrote this. No, he was obviously feeling a way about this. He obviously had plans to write about Joe, to share his story, and he even alluded to that in the interview. But I think what our conversation helped him do was to finally take that step, because it can be so difficult sometimes, especially when it's so close to the chest and it's so emotional for you. It's really hard to explore that within a song. And the toll it's going to take on you, because it's going to pull a piece of you. It's going to pull a piece of you to write that and then to listen back to it and to mix it and to share it with the world. It's not an easy undertaking to do. And oftentimes, maybe when you sit down to write something, you'll dive into a different topic in a different area that is not going to be such an emotional burden on you. So I think what our interaction and conversation did was it just kind of helped give him a nudge back to where he wanted to be at in the first place. A world and a story that he wanted to share that he hadn't opened the door on in a while. And I think it just helped him put his hand on the knob and turn it and finally enter into those complexities and find a way to wade through it via his amazing music. So I think enough background has been set now. Let's dive back into this song and this final verse one more time.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly, what it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility, only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sega, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. The truth is that the day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find that anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. Not the way that it worked, cause I was late like a jerk. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you absurd. Fuck.
Wow. And one thing I noticed too was that AI generation of Ren was rocking back and forth, going through that emotion and kind of reflecting his very mannerisms that he's shown through Hi Ren and that he's shown through Sick Boy. And those tears at the end and that just rawness of emotion, you could tell how much this meant to him and how much it affected him. And I really commend him for his bravery of being willing to share this with us, because you really open yourself up to vulnerability, especially in today's world. If you do a song like this, there's going to be someone who's going to critique it. There's going to be someone who's going to hate on it. And when you put your heart and your soul really into something, especially something so personal as loss and tragedy, the second that you leave it out there for the world to critique it and eviscerate it, it's almost like it takes away from some of those feelings and emotions that you've gone through, and it hurts in a different sense because you're really telling a story that you can't change. It's something that's had such a dramatic impact on you that a lot of people don't really release these songs. They never really get to that finish line. And one other interesting anecdote I'll share with you guys, because I think it contributed to this a little bit as well. After Ren and I did our interview, and he was messaging me, we talked about the Joe topic in conversation, and Ren was talking about how maybe we should look at that and see if there's a way to edit it perhaps so that it doesn't flag up on YouTube, because we wanted as many people to see it as possible, because we thought it was a great interview, and he obviously didn't want it to affect my channel. So he was worried, if it gets slapped with a warning, with a big thing about us talking about suicide, then it's going to obviously affect the recommendations in the algorithm. He's trying to help my channel. He's trying to help me out. So he just wants it to perform as well as it possibly can. And, we had a little bit of a conversation about it. He kind of proposed the idea. I went back, I did some research, and then we talked about it, and we decided, no, you know what? We're just going to leave it. If he gets hit with it, whatever, gets hit with it, because it's a story I think that other people need to hear. Sometimes you can find solace in hearing someone else's struggle and hearing what someone else has been through, because it reminds you that you're not the only one going through it. You're not the only one who has to face these challenges and face these issues. And it just didn't feel right to maybe take out the saying of suicide a couple times in a way so that, you can make it so it doesn't necessarily like trigger something with the algorithm or trigger that warning. And I think it's really interesting, because then you look at this song and you look at the title of this song and you look at the warning that this song got slapped with. But this song still is at 833,000 views now. So it's still doing just absolutely incredible, considering that you have to go and click yes. Because the second that you make someone have to like do a further action on a video, any social media marketeer will tell you, well, you're going to have some people drop off from that. It's just a natural part of it. People are lazy. People don't like to do extra work. And also, it's not going to get recommended as much. So I think, speaking on kind of our decision within the interview to leave that, also, if you look at how Ren approached this song and the release of this song, he could have named it something else. He could have worded it in a different way. But I think there's even more power to what he's done with this song, because so many people will dance around the subject and topic of suicide. Ren went all in on it. And what he wanted to do was, I think he wanted to remove that stigmatization that so many people have, that, we can't necessarily, like, we can talk around it, but we'll never talk about it directly. Ren was like, you know what? It doesn't matter to me how this is going to rank, how this is going to do. I want to remove this stigma around it. I want to approach it in a much more direct way, hence the titling of it. But I did find it interesting that our interaction, is very similar to this line of thinking here, in terms of how he decided to release the video, how he wanted to title it, how he wanted to push it out there. And I think it's so much more impactful and so much more powerful because of that. But anyways, I think that's enough ranting for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the wanderings and musings of a madman when I get on here and I turn the camera on and just start talking. But yeah, if somehow you're here at the end, do me a huge favor, support channel directly, subscribe, notifications on. It really, really does go a long way. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Please know that whatever you're going through, you are not alone. Don't be afraid to get help. The night is always darkest before the dawn. I hope that you find a way to keep going, to persist, because you never know when things can turn around. All right, guys, I love you, and I'll catch you again.